Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else has been interesting going on. You got into fitness a lot recently, huh?
Yeah, I mean, on the last tour, you know what happened was that, like, I always, like, do it somewhat.
Right, because you guys have done that Sober October for a while.
But even, like, before that, it was always, like, I mean, that would be another time, but I would get, like, to a certain point, and then I would have the mentality of, like, oh, I got there. Like, it's almost like the race is over. Like, I'm done. Like, now I'm good. Like, 10 times or more. And so that what happens is when you go, like, I'm done, you just kind of retreat back to old habits and you get out of shape. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck, how'd this happen again? And then you go, I'm going to do it again. And then you go, all right, I'm going to work out and eat clean. And then you lose weight and you start to get, and then you go, oh, I got to this number again. All right, I feel, and then you just kind of pull back. And so it really was that I got frustrated by that. And I had this, I was on tour and we were working out on tour, but not really like dialed in on food. We were and the tour was like aggressive, like nonstop. And I remember that I got back to LA to shoot this thing. I was shooting this pilot I had written, and I was covering the whole production. And I remember I was in the wardrobe fitting for it, and I was like, shit, this is like, I feel like I'm going back, like in the fitting the clothes. I was like, oh, this sucks. And then I left there, like after that week, and I was like, I have to take this more seriously. Mm-hmm. But the difference is that I no longer go, if I see a number that I like on a scale, that means I'm good. It's just, I realized that you have to do it, like that there is no end. There's,
right.
It's just continuous.
Right.
It's like, it's something that you just, if it's about goals, you just have to set new goals. You know, like if you can't go like, oh, if I see this number, I'm at the weight I like.
Okay.
You have to set new fitness goals. Like you have to go, well, this month is about, you know, like cardio stuff, or this month I want to see if I can do 200 push-ups a day. Like you have to set goal. That's what that's what
happened for you. Had you been doing that before in your life, setting like, I mean, I know we have sometimes subconsciously we set goals we don't realize, and we have some of that going on in our general life. But had you ever done it that specifically before? We were like, I'm gonna set a goal.
I kind of loosely, I would say, you know, like, hey, this month let's go after this type of thing, and things like in Sober October. But this was also the time where I was like, you know, this really, as like cliche as it sounds, can be like a lifestyle change. And now I realized how much I am affected, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, by, and in a good way, by my like working out a lot and like waking up, getting my stuff together, going to the gym right away. And I'm like, I'm just having a better day. I'm just happier. Yeah. I'm moving around better. I look better. I feel like, so I just go, I feel like I have better creative days, you know, like it's all kind of tied together.
Huge.
Yeah, it's tied together. So I just made it like part of what I do. It's like, you know, I know that I want to eat certain types of food that are good for me. And by the way, I'm not saying this like I am the most strict dude and don't ever, but I'm just like, there's just so much more clean eating.
Yeah.
And I like the workouts. I like it. You know, I like being active, and I just feel like I'm very fortunate in that I have a full-time trainer. So like I know I'm not
right. Not everybody has that.
I totally understand that. And it's a huge advantage. So sometimes people will be like, well, yeah, of course you can do that if you. I'm like, yeah, I'm very lucky that I can do it. But you also just have to want that in your life.
Yeah.
And
well, even having a buddy that goes with you to the gym, that used to be one of the funnest times when I was young, dude. We would go, and we used to do steroids back in the day. And
really? What kind of steroids would you do?
Oh, dude. Test 200, 400. We might have done a fucking 1100 they came out with for like fucking a couple. Like
I take some tests though.
Do you? Are you with
vitamin T? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A couple jabs, we would take a couple jabs.
Yeah. Were you doing the butt cheek?
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost gets kind of fun. I hate to say that, and I don't want.
But see, I take a moderate dose though. Like, right. I was like, oh, this is gonna be wild, and they're like, not with what we give you.
Oh yeah.
Like they're like one of the guys was like, oh, he's like, how much you taking? And I tell him, he goes, that ain't shit. He goes, I would take 3 times that amount in one session. I was like, what? But he was also a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to do that, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just want to recover more and
Yeah.
level
And it
out.
makes me, I remember, I also tried a testosterone that was like, I saw on the internet, you know, I fell into one of those deals one night and, you know, I bought like a couple weird shirts on Facebook and next thing you know, I'm buying like tests from some company who's mailing it, right?
Yeah.
And they mailed it with like some ice and like a fucking, like that. That's when you know shit is a little weird when they're mailing you all the needles and the ice and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried that for a while, made some of my hair fall out.
Really?
Yeah. I noticed that was a bad side effect from it, which was a little scary.
Was it affecting aggression? People always talk about roid rage and shit. Like, were you snapping?
It made me want to hump. No.
Yeah, hump.
It made me want to fucking hump, dude. I'll fuck a mailman. I felt like a damn dog, you know?
Yeah, really?
Oh, God. I found myself running to the edge of the fence if the mail guy would drive off.
I had a guy, a
I
friend of
was
mine
keyed up.
that was in college. It was juicing, and the way that he would snap after a while, I was like, yo, like this guy is about to fucking rip somebody's arm out of its socket.
Yeah.
He was, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm seeing this firsthand. It was pretty nutty. You know, he's just fucking all the time. I was like, holy fuck.
Oh, there was nothing like juicing back in the day, dude. My buddy and I met this fellow who's a homosexual, and he was a prize fighter, right?
Uh-huh.
And nobody knew he was. He was just like, he'd grown up fighting, and then people would just think he was gay and around, then he'd beat the shit out of somebody.
That's a fucking perfect combo.
It was an insane combo, right? People weren't ready for it. Like you're saying, like people want to put you in one box.
If you're a fighter, you can't be gay. Yeah.
Never had seen it.
Yeah.
So, so we became buddies. We were both bus boys, and we became buddies, and we started shooting up, and we'd pull over on the side of the interstate and stuff like that, and just douse each other up, and we're just driving around. Just, it was right around when Princess Diana had died too, and it was just a fucking lot. But I remember we would do a bunch of steroids, and I remember the first day I was in class where I guess the teacher had given me like every quarter she had this stack of papers and she would turn them all back to the students. She gave me this stack. And I'd had the stack before and it was usually kind of heavy in my hands.
Yeah.
And I just remember like she gave me the stack and I was like,
oh, isn't that funny? You remember the weight of it.
Yeah.
That this
like,
is,
oh, this is
light. This is light work, baby.
Yeah. This is light work, dude.
Yeah.
So I remember walking around with this stack and I was like, oh, I'm a fucking different guy now.
Yeah. It's a good feeling.
And then I was doing all kind of shit. And I would buy shit that wasn't even steroids that people would tell me it was. And I was fucking had diarrhea for like 3 months one time, horribly. I put there's still some stuff. I took some kind of oil, like I think some illegal oils or whatever. There was some things that I wish I hadn't taken, you know, probably. But at that time it was so rare to get it. One time we all went to Mexico for school year thing or something, end of school, and people bought it back in shampoo bottles. So then you were fucking doing this sudsy, bubbly fucking.
Really?
Yeah, like you felt like slippery all the time, but you were still doing.
I wish I remember being scared to try in high school.
Yeah.
And there was a couple dudes that were doing it in high school, which I thought was like, because back then for me, like all you'd heard was like Lyle Alzado.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like,
he died.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, steroids. And I was like, oh, steroids are like the worst. And then there's a couple of kids, like 16-year-old kids, you know, on steroids. And one of them looked like he looked like a bodybuilder. Like he had a muscular man's body. And you kind of were like, that'd be fucking pretty nice. This guy's like, I mean, just fucking jacked. But I still was like, nah, if I do that, I'll die. Like, that's what I thought, you know? Like, I wouldn't do it. And then this dude went to college and got on, I saw him on a break, and I was like, I mean, he looked like a gorilla. I was like, what are you on? He's like, they got me on this shit called Darth Vader. And I was like, I see it. Like, I was like, yeah, I fucking see it, dude. He was fucking so jacked. I remember he went to Florida State. And
yeah, that was that nation. Remember they had that movie that came out about Florida State?
Yeah.
They were doing the drugs, man.
Yeah. I
think there was something, it was big. It was big to get, if you could get on some roids. And then, like, yeah, you would get a girl who was like always just afraid you were gonna beat her. Some of those women, you know, like
Perfect girlfriend.
yeah. Like she'd be like, "Don't beat me." She'd write that at the end of every like love letter or whatever, and you hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but they get your wheels turned. It was
She sees what you do to tables and windows and shit. She's like, oh fuck, yeah.
Yeah, dude. There was a couple times where I fucking snapped, man, where you would be shocked at some of your own behaviors, you know? And then your strength matches your anger and you're just able to do something insane, you know?
Were you doing like traditional lifts when you were juicing too? Like bench, squat, deadlift, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. A lot of that, some rows where
you
can
hit
fucking
crazy numbers on them?
I probably got to maybe 260, maybe I could bench, 245 or 260, which isn't insane, but for me it was.
Yeah, sure.
Squats, I did okay, but I definitely remember, and I never thought I looked okay. So I really had some deficiency with my own brain.
Yeah.
I was always like, do I seem okay? I'd be embarrassed to take my shirt off at places.
You didn't have that Bert mentality at all.
No, the unlimited fucking like, I feel like Bert should just turn his stomach, get a nipple put on his, just make a third tit, you know?
It's almost there.
Like the biggest tit, like the winner tit.
Yeah, this is the main tit.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Bro, how sick would that be if you went to see Bert?
Yeah.
He's got two nipples and then like a little curtain and he pulls it over.
Yeah.
And it's like the unveiling.
Yeah. God, I saw a lady last night with the craziest tits.